see me there. Eye to eye, compromise is fair.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
You're always full of surprises.
I love surprises. You know what? I love giving them more than getting them. But
Yeah. Well, I do too, because I think that part of this experience has been that we have surprised each other in a lot of ways.
yeah.
And we've surprised each other by getting to know each other, despite
What everybody else
predispositions
says.
and all that stuff. In the beginning, you remember in the beginning, everyone was like, watch out because she's a liberal. It's like,
Right.
wait a minute, you must not know me.
Right.
And how I saw you at events, like the station events. And for some reason, and it's interesting how you talk about metaphysics or you talk about electromagnetic energy we talked
You
about
felt
before.
an energy.
Well, and it wasn't like I did not feel an aversion to you, even though people were like, well, she's a liberal in the company or whatever. And like for some reason that was like, that doesn't bother me at all. I don't, because I'm perfectly comfortable with liberal people.
But not
I don't even know
everybody
what that
is like that. Not everybody is like that. So this is, if you're new to the program, we started this podcast. What we need right now in our society, I believe, is a connectedness that we don't have. And we don't have it because, like you had said, and if you listen to episode 1, Jamie, you put it perfectly, is it's two-party system, this whole crap. So how do we as individuals talk and meet each other? So,
Well, what the world needs now is love, sweet love.
amen,
That's
brother.
the only thing
Hashtag
that there's
truth.
just too little of.
Wait, who wrote that?
Burt Bacharach and Dionne Warwick.
I love Burt Bacharach.
Oh, my goodness gracious,
my
what a
gosh, I
gem.
just discovered him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
And
God,
you
the
discovered him and
bells
then he
of-
died.
I didn't know that. I just heard the bells of St. Augustine for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was crying.
Oh, that
and I
Dionne
go,
Warwick.
that's Burt Bacharach? Wow.
Trains and boats and planes. Oh, yeah. Oh, come
Anyway,
on.
So we're completely different. So we both work for iHeart, but Jamie is a Republican. Well, I mean, I don't know.
I'm a conservative.
I hate labeling. I'm sorry.
So
about
yeah,
that.
I don't really
apologize.
like a lot of Republicans.
Okay. And
But-
I don't like a lot of liberals, but I'm very I'm a free spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if it's within the Constitution and when it makes common sense, because I call it common sense radio, then I'm there. If it doesn't, then it doesn't.
Oh, see, I'm a comical radio. So Jamie does talk radio.
Comical
I do
radio.
comical radio.
I like that.
So I do a morning show, which is music driven, 80s, 90s, today, whatever, and then
You're world famous. You
Oh,
guys are
stop.
No, you and Billy are the top rated show in St. Louis.
Well, that's good
You
for St. Louis.
you know, I'll never forget when John Beck, my boss from even way back then came to iHeart. And, John Beck is the one who minted Keishi.
Right.
And it was funny because John Beck is like hugely competitive. So he said, I know, but the one thing I want to do is I want to beat Keishi. And then you guys did. You guys did.
Well, thanks for the prop.
No, I know. I mean, that's a
It's
big
just
deal.
luck. It's just totally luck of the draw and luck of the Nielsen's, which I don't believe anyway. But
Well, believe him now.
we work hard, but we're from different walks of life. And so I don't judge a book by its cover ever. And that a cover being what other people say.
Yeah.
So I had met you in the halls, but we always are on at the same time. So my co-host, who's very, very conservative, was like, you're going to hate him, telling me all this. I'm like, how do I know I'm going to hate him? I don't know who this guy is. I've heard of his name. And of course, I didn't listen to talk radio. I'm sorry. It just wasn't
That's
my
okay.
thing.
Yeah.
And I listen to music a lot. And so I wanted to, don't be scared, but I wanted to give you some of what was said to me about you and to say, well, where did that come from? And is it true? And if it is true.
Can I say one quick thing, though?
Yeah.
Based on what people were telling me about liberal Judy and blah, blah, blah. So one day I'm in the studio. It's the old studios at the Highlands.
Oh, yes. You have
And
to
you
tell
were running
this.
around with your video camera.
Yeah.
And you were shooting a video of me through the window.
Right.
And I'm like, and because I didn't actually know you well at that point,
At all.
I was wondering, okay, so Billy, these people all told me, she's a liberal. I was like, what is she doing videotaping me? And is she sending some video to a friend saying, oh, here's that asshole who's,
my God.
who's on the radio, Jamie Allman. Now you see him in the flesh. I got to work with him. I was like, all these things wandered through my mind. And I actually went to the point where I was going, I did. Did I
You
email you?
emailed me, yeah, and I was
said,
like,
what are
oh,
you,
shit,
I said, what were you
talking
doing?
mushrooms.
It was always. I hope I approached you peacefully because I did.
You know what? It was
like,
it was
"What's
one of
up?"
those things like, oh shoot, I didn't even think about that. That he's on a talk show where you're really looked upon on all sides. I don't think
Yeah.
about that kind of stuff. I was just testing out my camera.
I know, but you know what's
Just
so
to
funny?
See how it would work going into a studio.
Right.
But I was going to surprise my co-host with it. He didn't know I was not you. So then I felt really bad. I'm going, oh God, he thinks
Well,
I'm
and I
some
didn't-
weirdo.
And no, I didn't. And actually, I didn't. I figured. I guarantee you, I thought of the best intentions. So I didn't think of the most negative things at first, but because somebody said, "Oh yeah, Judy's the liberal," and then suddenly you're videotaping me, testing your camera, going, and I was
I'm going to
fairly
make
new.
him go viral.
I
That's
was
the
fairly
bad
new
guy.
there,
Right,
and I'm
you
thinking,
were.
"Oh my gosh, she must hate my guts," and she's probably sending a picture out to a video out to somebody, going, look at him. There's Jamie Allman." So
And I felt
was a little bit
bad.
sensitive at that point.
To be honest, I felt bad. So here's Jamie Allman comes in, and he's doing a conservative. It's called The Patriot, the station, and you can get the app. Everything's in the writing and the notes in this podcast.
1049thepatriot.com.
That's right, and follow him and his podcast and everything. So it comes into a cluster, a radio cluster, which media is in general, and I can say this as somebody who's liberal, is a liberal thing. Media is liberal for the most part.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
The celebrities, the newspapers. iHeart's very liberal. And yet, and so I was surprised, as a lot of people were, because you took over an urban station.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what is our boss thinking? They're going to flip an urban station to conservative. That was my
Yeah.
first gut. And I'm like, okay, you know what? We don't have a good one here. So yeah, maybe it's what we need. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm all
Yeah.
about equal. And so then you came in, and the first talk, which you probably already, you knew because we've talked about this off mic, was he's the pet. He's the favorite.
Oh,
The gym
yeah.
likes him more than anybody else. So
Yeah.
then immediately you're already vilified by people.
Yeah.
But I didn't judge you because I didn't know you.
Right.
But then people kept saying, well, he da-da-da-da-da, and they would say stuff about what you feel about a policy or something. I'm like, okay, what's he like? Nobody could ever give me that answer. Well, so then I met you at this Christmas party. We talked about in episode 1. You can listen to that. But just recently, I'm talking to somebody, and they said, well, really? So, word gets out, we're doing this show. And he's like, you're doing this? Yeah. Well, he, and this is what I heard. You tell me the real story. He threw the flag down and stomped on it. And I said, well, that's our right as a American citizen to do what we want. It's
Right.
freedom of speech. Maybe he had something to say about that.
Yeah. When
So I backed your butt.
did I throw the flag
I
down
don't
and
know.
stomp
I'm
on
giving
it?
you a chance now to defend this.
Well, I will defend people throwing the flag down and stomping on it.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. I believe.
So you defended freedom of speech.
I believe that if you wanted to burn the flag, you should be able to burn the flag.
Okay.
But
That's interesting
But that's
to me.
because I'm for freedom of speech.
Okay.
And that's a form of freedom of speech as long as you're not burning the flag and then throwing it on somebody, or burning the flag and then throwing it around a house and lighting the house on fire.
Yeah, because you're hurting
whatever.
somebody else. Or,
I don't know.
So wait, is that mostly? But that's not really a conservative point of view, is it?
Well, normally it's kind of like, burn my flag and I'll burn your ass.
Right,
That's the
right.
kind of thing. I would never burn the flag, and nor would I ever
Stop someone from doing.
stomp on the flag. I would never do that in a million years. I could
So
never.
where did that come from?
I don't know. I guess
Wow.
I would have to know who told you that, but you wouldn't have to tell me. I'm just saying that would come from somebody who I don't know how that would even
So
come about. Like
I
that
bring
would put the flag. I mean, my goodness, my
You of all
son
people.
is an Iraq war veteran. My oldest son,
Right.
And I'm very proud of him,
Right.
Ethan. And he turned 20 in Iraq and risked his life for this country.
Thank him
And I
for
was
his
fully
service.
supportive of him
Sure.
of that. And so I would never stomp on the flag.
Right?
You know.
I go, okay, that doesn't sound like something he would do. And so I brought it up because
Oh,
this
goodness.
is the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Is that you have to look past. People believed Yoko Ono was
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
Years. Because Britain and their media, and my dad's British, decided that she was evil because she took, John Lennon for the Beatles. And the thing is there's a great documentary. If you see, it's Above Us Only Sky, it's called, on Netflix. And there's John Lennon in an interview saying he wished he would have given the correct rights or whatever. Who wrote the song Imagine was Yoko Ono, not John Lennon. He says this in an interview.
Yeah.
And she was vilified before people knew who she was.
Right.
So it's that kind of a thing, And
it didn't help, I guess, that John Lennon at one point, wasn't he the one that said, we're bigger than Jesus or something like that?
he meant
which
it as a metaphor.
Yeah, it wasn't
people
really.
took it out of context.
Of course they did.
Right, which is
Yeah.
what the problem is.
Right.
So, unfortunately, people aren't as open-minded. I'm very open-minded. I was
Yeah.
raised to be open-minded. And so I don't believe that crap. So I'm saying to you,
Well,
this
but
is what I hear.
I know.
I didn't believe it.
Of all the things to say about me,
I know.
that would be like the least. I mean, there's
Right?
so many. I was thinking before, because I wasn't briefed about this beforehand.
didn't tell
and I
Jamie.
didn't want to be briefed, right?
Right.
But of all the things somebody could say about me, that's funny, because I could think of I could give you a list of 10 things somebody would say about me that could be pejorative or be bad, and that would not be on the list.
Wow.
Because
So you have now it's turnaround's fair play.
I think we
So-
all should actually have a view of what are the 10 things somebody could say about you that are bad.
Oh, there's an
Because
exercise to find this out.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, it's great. You go to an airport, okay, you have a person with you, and you just stand there. And then you hand out sheets. They have adjectives on it. You say, what is that? They don't know you. And they're going to check off what they think about you. It's a great exercise.
Yeah.
You can find out your negatives and just by the essence that you put off to people.
I think that's so funny. Somebody talked about it. He stomped on the
Look at-
flag. It's like, this is the worst possible.
I know.
Like you could do, I mean, a myriad. I could think of 20 things you could say about me that would try to turn you against me. And the flag thing would be like the least of it.
I never would have believed it.
Where
then-
did I stomp on the flag? Did they tell you?
You were mad about something. And I said, well, do you know what it was about? No. And I said, well, maybe it was a defending of the freedom of speech. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I wasn't.
And I go, but that doesn't sound like something that at all. That's like, no.
No.
Didn't see it. Jamie adorns his studio with the flag. So
Yeah.
I don't
well,
think-
and really, actually, to a certain degree, I've actually gotten criticism of that, because at
You
one
have,
point
yeah.
I had a flag that was on the table, and I set things on top of the flag too.
Oh, I didn't know.
And people were all pissed off about that. And I'm like going, all right, enough is enough. I
Right.
mean, I get it. I mean, when I have a flag at my house, that's always lit. Right. So I do due diligence. And when I take my flag, I fold it up. But the whole stomping on the flag, that's funny.
Isn't that
Somebody
crazy?
could say that. Yeah.
And that's it. That no
You
one
know,
said anything. I
he's-
want to know what they said about me. Nobody says anything. Well, no, that's not
He
true.
was mad and he stomped on the flag.
I mean-
Allman did.
Yeah. So
That's
the only
funny.
thing I have had people talk about me and say things like, "Oh, she slept around," which is bull dinkies coming from Holly Weird. I never did a casting couch. Never slept around. I can
Yeah.
name one hand how many guys I've been with. That's how few.
No, I mean you're a legend.
But it's all I don't know
Yes.
about a legend. But
You
I'm saying
are.
that
I mean, you're.
people will say crap and it's bullshit.
Oh yeah, totally,
So-
totally.
That's why I didn't believe it, because I've been there. I know what it's like to have somebody talk about you. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
relieved. That was an easy one. I thought.
Do I have another one? Let me think.
I thought for sure that it would be going to be something really complicated that I would not be able to explain, but that one was an easy one.
Yeah, I figured.
We talked about this early on when somebody basically said, "Watch out for Judy." It's like, why would I do that? Because
What
she
am I
seems
gonna
like
bite?
she's so nice, and she kind of comes in and out of these little configurations we have, and she's smiling all the time. I'm like, what are you talking about? But it's so weird how people.
How they perceive you.
Well, also how people are envious of anybody who becomes tight or friends or whatever, who they can't figure out why they are being friends or they're tight.
Yeah.
and that makes people jealous because they don't have the spirit to like be open anyway, or they're just boring.
Well, it all
And-
comes down to a fear too.
Yeah,
Afraid. I don't know what of, but
afraid of the power,
maybe.
and that the power that a unification of two people who don't really agree with each other brings, because
Because they do
drives them
agree at the
nuts.
end.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And anytime you go outside of the box, it's kind of like in politics the same way. Anytime the uniparty or whatever sees people coming together over one thing,
Right.
they'll immediately try to divide them. Media's the
So
same
true.
way.
Yeah.
Anytime you come up with an alternative form of media, I mean, look what happened with even when Trump was twittering, whatever he was doing the fireside chat thing, really, and the media hated it because he was speaking around them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people can't control you, they effort to then poison your mind to control you in a different way. You know what I mean? And make you turn against that person. It's really actually it's a pretty vile way to operate, but it happens in our business a lot. But apparently it happens in all businesses. I've seen it in all businesses.
Oh yeah, my daughter's who's a lawyer will tell you.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
She goes, "Well, I'm working for the same firm,
Right.
and this lawyer is mad at me for this and this." And I'm like, aren't you working for the same thing?"
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's you think about that, it's crazy.
Stomping on the flag.
Yeah, I know. That's
Yeah,
Look
I
at
would
that
never-
reputation. I would love to have a reputation of something.
Yeah, but that would not be. I mean, I have a reputation on a lot of levels, but the stomping on the flag would not be one of them.
Well, I will say my first inclination. So it's always your first essence. What's your first essence when you meet somebody?
Yeah.
Was definitely standoffish.
Was I standoffish to you?
Oh yeah.
I was?
It seemed that way.
Oh,
and
I'm
this was
sorry.
before anybody said it. No, I'm just saying that's like, so what is your essence? What is your essence that you're putting off? And it could have just been where you were at that moment.
No, there's no way. I'm not a standoffish person.
I know that
I'm a
now.
cautious person. I
Right.
mean, I think coming into the cluster after it had changed,
I
it
don't
was
know
a
how
little
you did.
weird
Yeah.
because I was kind of an outlier.
Right, you were.
And I didn't know about meetings that were happening that didn't have,
And
that
they
kind of
don't
thing.
tell you anything.
Yeah,
They don't
and
train
so-
you. They tell you nothing. You're supposed to just know.
Yeah, and
It's a
I was on my
weird-
own. I didn't have a producer. I just kind of like just did it on my own. Lucky to be there, everything else, but didn't really anticipate a little bit of the vibe. But you know what?
Office politics, you mean?
Yeah, and I'm not beneath though making overtures to people and trying to be
But I'm
good
saying
with
it's
people.
weird that when you get that first impression, it's like, well, why is that? Why did that come off?
Yeah.
What
yeah.
was I thinking at that moment? Because that's happened to me where people go, oh,
Yeah.
I thought you were snobby. Snobby? No,
Yeah.
I'm really actually shy. Believe it or
I
not.
know. Well, and that
just
sometimes
weird.
will come across that way when people are, because I really.
I used to be shy. I'm not anymore. But
Yeah,
I was.
But I mean, I was in a situation where I really couldn't really. I didn't feel.
You came into a situation of hostile, to be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just me being
Yeah.
open. To me, it felt hostile. If I was you, I would feel like it
Right.
was, wow, I'm taking this. It's nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It's the change. It's what happens in radio
yeah,
all the time.
And that was our big concern too, because we thought maybe that there'd be some kind of revolt, and J.B. Allman's a Nazi, and he's taking over a
It's
former
scary.
urban station.
Yeah,
and
there
all that
you
kind of
come
stuff.
into a situation
Yeah.
like that. So I knew that in my head. because
Yeah.
I didn't know it. I just figured it. Nobody said it.
But if I came off as standoffish, I really apologize because that's
Why
really
would you
not me
apologize?
normally.
No, I know.
In fact, when people told me that you were the resident liberal, all I wanted to do was talk to you.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. You're like me.
But you
Come on,
kind of
bring it
sweep
in.
in and you kind of do this and do that. And I was like, there's no way that she's like, that was kind of funny.
Hippy-dippy-doo.
Yeah. But I mean, but I gravitate towards it. I've always, I'll never forget taking, like even when people call into the show, I'll never forget when I was over at the other station. And, we have a phone bank and people call into the show and they're like, and one of them was like, Jamie Allman is what's wrong with the world. Like there are other people calling in the show going, I love your show. I love you. The call I took was, the one that said Jamie Allman's What's Wrong with the World, because I wanted to hear
Right.
from that person.
Oh,
you know?
I just got a lot more respect for you just now by you saying
Yeah,
that.
it was the first.
I love that.
And some people would say, they write me and say, why are you taking these calls? We love you, and you're taking calls from people who hate you. I go, but I want to know
what
like
it
what
is.
they think,
Of
you know?
course.
I mean, and I'm not Jesus, but I'm just saying that, it's a tradition in history that the best things come out of approaching people who might misunderstand you or not know you or whatever. And those are the relationships that stay. I have a guy who calls into the show all the time, two people. Brother Bob, who's a civil rights activist. So Brother Bob and I argued like we were going to kill each other during the whole Michael Brown Ferguson thing. Brother Bob is now one of the biggest fans of the show. He's like this 80-year-old former civil rights activist, and Dick Gregory, hung out with Dick Gregory, all these guys.
Wow.
And he everywhere I go, he's there. Got his Allman in the Morning shirt, everything, all that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
And then a guy I call Steam Fitter Chris now, who is a union guy. So I happen to be a big supporter of labor unions.
I am too.
A lot of
SAG-AFTRA.
right on. And this guy called into the show a long time ago, and he and I would yell at each other basically. And then came Trump, and then came a certain like symmetry with people, and I call him Steam Fitter Chris. He was a steam fitter at the time, and he and I got in arguments all the time over Democrat, Republican, all this other garbage, and he would. And now he's like my best friend. So
Wow.
he calls into the show all the time. He's really super entertaining because I will go after Republicans like I go after Democrats, same way, if you're wrong, in my opinion. And so it's about winning people over, not winning people over necessarily through just arguing with them,
Manipulation.
but
no.
through respecting them, respecting their viewpoints and their intellect,
Yeah. Yeah.
and their brains, which is why the last episode we did, when I got that book from my brother, all I could think about was I can't wait to hear what Judy has to say
I
about
love
this.
this.
And actually not in a challenging way, but just because I know that you'd have something great to say about it. So it's one of those things where if we could reach that point all the time where, we have those conversations that are not comfortable, but actually are kind of comfortable because we don't have anything to lose.
Exactly.
Right?
What
do we
is
have to
there
lose? And so many people are into being right. Yeah. And it's one of the things I also did on my radio show, which is, I always told people, I said, I do not have to be right. If you want to call in and challenge me and talk to me about something, that's the one thing I never have to be is right.
I never would have known that. So
Yeah.
this is what stopped me from listening to talk radio.
Yeah.
Is that my dad, I grew up with him listening to
Yeah.
talk radio, and I hated them yelling and going, right, not letting anybody else talk but his side. Or always a hit, because they didn't have females back
Yeah.
then. There might be one or two now.
Yeah. It's funny because both of our dads were heavily conservative guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now your dad's passed. But,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But he was a socialist.
Well,
right?
no, my grandpa
Your grandpa
was a socialist.
was. I love your grandpa,
on my
by the way.
mom's side.
Yes, I have to.
Yeah.
Somewhere I must have known him.
Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, no, it's a real
I
mix.
just love that story. You have to listen to episode 1 because it's like so crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's why when we talked at the Christmas party, you and I have so many differences of opinions on things, but we all came from a really mixed and diverse background.
Yes.
That I think we need to kind of we honor.
Yeah.
And my dad, who was sometimes to his fault, detriment, was a staunch conservative. He's a Goldwater guy, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And then my grandpa on my mom's side didn't vote for a Democrat until Roosevelt.
Wow.
So he lived 30, 40 years before he voted for a socialist candidate the entire time.
Wow.
So it's crazy. But
That's
but I
crazy.
love him like
Of
you wouldn't
course.
believe.
I mean, and that's it's called respect. It's called listening. It's called
Yeah.
being human. And
Yeah.
and I think that's what we need to get back to.
Yeah. I think that we're taught, I think especially young people are now taught that you have to be in a lane. You have to stay in a lane. You have to like have an opinion about something.
There's a 21 Pilots song called that.
Oh, yeah.
Lane Boy. You know the one I'm talking about,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I took my son a long time ago to see 21
Such
Pilots.
a great, I love that.
A great band.
Yeah.
I think they're back too.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah. But it's where, you really have to see things individually as they are, issue by issue, and because I think that the more we get sucked into any media or political structure, that makes us determine to choose a side is wrong. I guarantee you there are conservatives out there who will call themselves conservatives who will say, you should not support burning the flag. And I don't support burning the flag, but I defend the right to burn it.
Right.
And if you don't, then I don't think you're conservative.
We're on the same wavelength then.
Yeah.
Because I agree with both of those.
Yeah.
I wouldn't burn the flag, but I respect your right as a freedom of speech.
Yeah. But the stomping on the flag because I'm mad.
But I shouldn't have told
I know.
you now.
Well, I'm glad you did. It just is like so weird that
That's
I would
what
stomp on a
happens when
flag.
people talk, and
Yeah.
and that's why when you hear hearsay or gossip, it's just remember, it's hearsay. It's go by your gut.
And sometimes I wish people would just, it would be great because I appreciate your candidness, on that, because some people would just like simply not say anything and not give somebody like the benefit. Hey, I heard you did this. Is that true? And like at the football game, now who are those guys?
Blackhawks?
Who
are the Blackhawks? Oh wait, that's hockey, isn't it? I don't know.
It's
Is
the
that
Battlehawks.
Battlehawks. Is that football or soccer?
It's football.
I don't know anything about
I'm sitting there in this parking lot with this guy. I'm with my son, Aiden, and we go. It was a great game. We go outside to the afterwards. People are having beers or doing whatever, and this one guy says, hey man, why did you wind up? What was your deal with the Archbishop? And I'm like,
what?
Because I worked for the Archbishop at one point.
Okay. Oh, right. What you were talking
back
about.
in my day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is a long story. There's no way I could tell you everything right now on a parking lot while I'm standing with my 18-year-old son.
Right.
And nothing I'm embarrassed about.
Right. But you're enjoying your time with your son.
Right. But I told the guy, I said, you know what? Thank you for asking me.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me the dignity of asking me instead of looking at me sideways when I don't know what you're thinking and I don't know what you. And so to me, obviously there's a balance between being polite and not asking uncomfortable questions.
Of course.
But there's also a feeling that I'm not beyond that. I would like to, so somebody like this guy I felt showed me the ultimate respect by giving me the chance to answer a question that he had
absolutely
for probably 10 years.
Yeah.
But had never had a chance to ask me that question. And I'm like, I'm good with that. Right. I said, I took his email and everything else, but I told him a really quick version of the story. And he was like, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Whatever. I said, no, thank you for having the respect that you have of me to actually feel like you could ask me that question. And I'm open to all of that. So if somebody said at the station, he stomped on the flag, I love the fact that you brought it up, but I would like that person who told you that I stomped on the flag to say, hey, did you stomp on the flag?
It's no, they won't.
Nah,
it's a fear.
I didn't stomp on the flag.
Yeah, it's fear-based. People don't say what they think, and then they hear, and it's all bull.
Yeah, it is kind of all bull.
As my dad would say. So
yeah.
But I just want to bring it out to you. And nothing about me. I see. This is no fun.
I know. Well, but to tell you the truth, I haven't heard any. I mean, I'm not telling. I would tell you. Plus, I don't really. I'm not a person who. I'm not saying you are. I don't really have an open ear to that. So if somebody doesn't,
ears open to everything.
I
just hear it.
Right.
And plus, people talk to me for some reason.
Yeah, but I have not conveyed to anybody that don't talk to me about somebody else because I'm not going to be part of that because I don't really traffic in that kind of stuff.
Jamie leaves.
Even when I was told, she's a liberal, I was like, I don't know. Do I care? Why am I supposed to care? Other than somebody saying, hey, I don't want you to talk to her or whatever else. Right. What are they afraid of? Why is it important for them to tell you that? Why was it important for somebody to tell you that about me?
something's always fear-based to me. So
Yeah.
what's the fear?
Like, why was it important for somebody to tell me that, yeah, she's the liberal, I'm like, well, why do they think that I would even respond to that?
Maybe they were trying to get you on their side.
Well, I'm already on their side.
I don't know. I'm
Right?
just putting it out there.
So
I mean,
why do they have to put somebody who I work with, who I admire already?
I don't know.
Because keep in mind, I came to say something. I was like, that's Judy Diamond. That's Judy Diamond. That's
Nobody knows who I am.
Judy Diamond.
No, nobody knows.
Just Judy Diamond?
No.
No, I knew you, and so it was like, so I didn't really, I didn't bother me at all. I was worried that you'd hate me. So
No, I didn't. But I have no cause to, and that's
I know.
what this is about. It's just if you have no cause to hate somebody, then why bother hating? It takes a lot more energy.
Ugh.
Very exhausting.
Being angry and overthinking things is way a lot of work.
Yeah,
I'm not
But
saying everybody has to be like ditzy
as a
witsy.
female, we do overthink,
Well, it's okay to do that.
but not to try and change that into a little more positive.
Oh, I overthink things all the time. Like if somebody says something to me and I think, damn, I wish I would have thought
I know,
like
we all-
say
don't
something.
we all do
like
that?
I didn't think about that and whatever, and you get all weird and how did I present myself and
I had a guy I dated for a year, and he said, "You're overthinking," and I said, "You're under communicating." What's my answer?
That's a good
It's true. I
yeah.
said I wouldn't overthink if you would just stop under communicating. Tell me what it is.
Right.
And so, that's
Well, there are a few things that I think people who have relationships say to each other that are absolute just deal killers in terms of communication,
one's
and
one.
will shut it down all the way.
that's one for
You're
most
overthinking
females.
it.
Really? Okay.
You're being too dramatic.
Oh, that's another one.
That's another one.
Yeah.
And this isn't about you is really one, because that's like super passive aggressive. So like this isn't about you.
Yeah. That's when I found out it was a situationship and not a relationship. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That and he was dating somebody else, but that's a whole other.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's funny though, because when you do that whole thing where you use these words, and I mean, like for instance, when you argue with somebody, telling somebody always and never, like using those words is like you'll kill every correspondence with somebody face to face when you say somebody always does this or never does that.
Do you know what's so weird?
As usual, it's like the worst thing you can do.
Okay. I just had my therapy appointment with a psychiatrist last week.
Yeah.
2 words he says he never uses. You just said them.
Yeah.
Synchronicity.
Always, never.
Because we were talking about stuff that was going on and stuff that had been going on in my life. People had said to me, and he goes, "You should have known when they said always," or and I go, "God, I never think about that." He said,
Or as usual.
Yeah.
Is another one. Yeah.
That's like so weird that you brought that up.
And in conversing, what happens is a lot of people make the mistake of saying "but" before they respond to what you're saying. And that's another kill zone because
However,
but, and then it's always an example of detachment from what somebody's saying as opposed to picking up on what they say.
wow. Do you think it's a defense mechanism?
It's not acknowledging what somebody says. You know what I mean? Like it's not being like, if somebody says something and you may disagree with it, or you believe your opinion is superior, somebody might say something and then you just say, but the other thing is, and then you just completely, at some point that message to that person you just said that to is that whatever they just said doesn't matter one piece of crap.
Well, now I'm like really overthinking myself because I'm thinking when I do it, it means I'm going further investigating. So like
Right.
if you, like you were talking earlier in another episode about you were going to the Bible and I'm going ahead going,
Right.
okay, so if this, but, and I want to go further when I say but.
No,
But what does
that's
that
not,
mean? You
Well,
see what I'm saying?
that's actually, we're talking intellectually, like we're talking about something, like we're
I'm
having
trying to
questions
make
about the
sense of
Bible,
it, right.
and you're saying, but how would you respond to this?
Right.
I'm talking about in daily relationship stuff where you have conversations and it's like, but on the other hand, but there's
You're
a
right,
difference.
honey, but if you
Yeah.
just would clean up a little bit or whatever. I don't know.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's different when you're having like intellectual conversations where it's saying, but what would you think about this? I mean, those are back and forth. Those are like designated back and forth times.
Right. Where you're
Unfortunately-
listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's opening up other ideas and thoughts.
Right.
Right.
Or like journalists do it. Like somebody might say, "Hey, so and so is amazing," but other people say this. That's a organized conversation about things. I'm talking about in interpersonal reactions where somebody might say something, but well, on the other hand, it's this, and you're not like
You don't feel like you're
acknowledging.
listened to.
Yeah.
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 That's true.
It's hard to learn though. I mean, it's really hard to say to people, "Yeah, you're right." Actually, it's funny. I don't know whether you really know anybody with Alzheimer's, for instance.
Yes, I just lost my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Early onset.
So Alzheimer's is one of those things. A woman who wrote a really great book, and she sold it out of the trunk of her car. Can't remember what it was, but it was about acts of love with people with Alzheimer's. And so there's a tendency of people when they have Alzheimer's for have you ever been in a conversation with somebody who will ask you a question?
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're like, well, I don't know what that is, and then they'll answer it for you. That's a really debilitating thing just for normal people.
Sure.
So when you go to an Alzheimer's patient or somebody who's like that and say, what day is it? What's my name? Name your grandchildren. It drives him nuts. So instead, what happens is when somebody with Alzheimer's says, "Hey, and then Uncle Joe's been dead like 10 years. I just saw Uncle Joe the other day, and he was telling me that this and that." I said, "Well, and we should go. He said we're gonna have lunch." And you say to the Alzheimer's patient, "Well, you know what?
We should.
Let's go ahead and make that happen.
I agree with
Let's
that.
go ahead and talk about that happening."
Yep.
Similarly, I think in normal conversations, it's almost like I have those conversations with my children. When they say something or they want something or they do something or say something that whatever, you go with what they're saying.
Right.
And you create, instead of saying, "Well, that's silly."
Right.
"Well, that's this. That's never going to happen."
It's called
That's this."
valuing. It's valuing.
Exactly.
them. And that's all anybody really wants.
Yeah.
Be seen, heard, valued, and loved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And valuing conversing is like a huge thing. Not everybody, I mean, I'm not perfect, and plus especially when there's like a tension element there and that starts to create things that are a little bit tense, and so especially when you're arguing.
Oh yeah.
And then you got your back up and all that stuff. But in general conversation, especially on just things that are normal, there are ways that you can really like drive it into the tank.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Yeah.
I love it.
You always do this. You never
Always.
do that.
Never, always. Don't.
Well, as usual, I'm doing this. It's like, oh Lord,
as usual.
I am.
Yeah. You're right. And it's not being dramatic or overthinking.
Yeah. Overthinking isn't bad. I think overthinking sometimes makes people attentive.
I
don't think there's enough
everything.
overthinking. I think there's so much self-absorption in this country that
Maybe you're right.
people just don't even think about the next step because we're all so self-absorbed.
Self-absorbed and very narrow-minded. A lot of times you don't think about what other possible paths there are in your thinking process.
Yeah.
What if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
Wow. And I think there's very powerful words the guys who wrote Freakonomics wrote another very short, easy book to read. It's a 1-2 hour read, and it's called Think Like a Freak.
Yeah.
Great book.
Yeah.
Great book. And they talk about the most powerful words is 3 words. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Try it sometime. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. And it's because people have to know. It's a really
Yeah.
great book if you get a chance.
Well, one of the worst 3 words in the world is "I don't care."
Oh, yeah.
Now, I do think one quick thing before we go is that I do believe backing into a parking space in a grocery store lot is really self-absorbed.
I totally agree.
Because what happens is
I
you're
hate
driving
that.
through the parking lot and suddenly you're like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
And they're suddenly like, "Well, I'm backing up." I'm like, "You're backing up in a lane of a parking area."
Right.
Well, I am parking backwards. So I don't have to worry about anything else. I'm thinking, oh my God, that is like one of the worst developments
So funny. you
in the
said that.
history of society is
I
backing
totally
into
agree.
a parking space.
Thank you. High five. I totally agree.
Right on.
I hate that.
I know.
You're just thinking about yourself and tomorrow, oh, am I going to be able to pull out? Who's coming?
Yeah.
Whenever you leave, it doesn't matter. It's
Well, then they stop, and then you're like, what are you doing? And like, then you have to back up
Yep.
so they can back up. Like, that's really not a, and I know I brought this up on the air before, and people are like, yeah, but my company requires me. It's like, oh, shut.
Right.
I mean, if anything, just move into like we normally do if you want to. Just go across a couple spaces and do it that way.
Those are the same people that when they're making a right, they take a wide angle turn and you're coming the other way.
Yeah.
And they just don't think they're going to make it because they don't know how to drive. Anyway.
Here we go.
Woo!
Woo!
No, agreed.
All right. You're the best.
Thanks. Namaste well.
Thank you, Judy.